Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Shark and I've got a video here today to teach you how to make a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of XP for very little effort. And you can do this pretty early in the game in Starfield as well. So buckle up guys, and here's what we're gonna do. First, I'll tell you about what we're gonna make and all the different pieces you need to make it. Then I'm gonna show you exactly where you can find all of those ingredients, harvest all of them in one outpost in one location. Once you get everything set up, you'll be good to go. And then I'll show you how that outpost is laid out for me. It's that one, the big one you see here, but we'll get to that part later on how that's all hooked up and connected. And then I'll teach you how to get all those resource bins all filled up really quickly and easily. At first, early in the game, you might not have the right skills to do it as quick as you possibly could, but we'll get to that part later. And then I'll teach you a couple of different ways to offload all the goods that you sell. Now, as you guys know, the merchants in Starfield only have a limited amount of credits, so in the beginning of the game, you might only have access to sort of a slower way, but I'll show you an even faster way to do it once you get a little bit of skills built up. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get cracking. All right, guys, let's get started. So, as you guys might have guessed, we're going to be making something in the Pharmaceutical Lab, and we're cosplaying a little bit of a drug lord situation here. So what we're going to do is we're going to be making a drug called AMP here in the Pharmaceutical Lab, and you're going to see here that AMP uses argon, metabolic agent, and toxin. So argon, luckily enough, is going to be able to be harvested directly in this outpost, and then on the same planet, which I'll show you in just a moment where we are, you're going to be able to scan two different plants to get the metabolic agent in your greenhouse list and the toxin here. So the system where this is going to take place is in the Alpha Centauri system. It's one of the earlier systems that you'll reach in the game. It's a really low-key system, level 1, nothing too crazy going on here. And so the planet you're going to be doing this on is the planet called Jemison. This is the same planet where you're going to find New Atlantis. But you can see I've got my outpost up here in the sort of northern pole snowy ice cap area. I've called it the drug lab here, and it's also an RO for resource outpost, making argon for me. That's just my little naming scheme that I use in my own playthrough. But when you're here at Jemison, go pick the mountains biome, and I'll show you the two plants that we're going to look for when we're there. All right, we're here in the mountains biome over here on Jemison, and so what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our scanner and we're going to look for two different plants. Here's the first one we're looking for. This is going to be the tufted snow willow, and you'll see that I've got this one fully scanned, and the resource it uses is metabolic agent. All right, where the hell is that other one? Okay, here we go. This one is the next. This actually took me like 10 minutes to find for you guys again. It's a little bit of a rare one. This one is the cold cave nettle, and this is the second plant we need to scan to a full 100%. You'll see the resource on this one is toxin. If you guys don't already know, to be able to grow a plant for some sort of resource on a planet, you have to look for two things. Number one, you have to scan it to 100%, and its primary resource needs to be the thing that you're looking for. Sometimes different plants and animals might drop a different thing periodically, but the primary one has to be listed there. You can see that right under where it says 100% scanned here, we have toxin. You also need to look for, in that same little box, it has to say Outpost Production Allowed. Because you might find one that has exactly what you're looking for, but it won't say that, and you won't be able to grow it in your outpost. So once you have the cold cave nettle and the tufted snow willow fully scanned here on Jemison, you're ready to go. Okay guys, so let's talk about where on Jemison you want to plop this base down. So as you can see, I've already scanned the planet. And what we're going to do is we're going to look for just any real spot out here in this northern ice cap where you're going to find argon. Argon is one of the last key ingredients that we need here. So really just pick down the spot and let's go check it out. All right, guys, so here's the outpost, and let me take a second to show you guys how everything's hooked up. I'll give you some of the basics. I will assume you kind of know the ultra basics here, but I'll kind of give you the lay of the land here to get everything hooked up and working for you. So the first thing I want to point out is the big full-size landing pad. There's not really any specifics on where it needs to be in your base, as long as it's within 250 meters of your pharmaceutical lab. Now, you could theoretically just place that anywhere on the ground. I happen to place my pharmaceutical lab in a real small little hab here, just as long as it's there, because once you make all this stuff, you're going to be massively over encumbered. You need to be a certain distance away from your ship to place it in your ship, and then you can, sprint and fast travel again. So one thing I want to point out first is we've got argon extractors. So I chose this specific location after I landed because of the proximity to several large argon nodes. So you'll see I have like, I don't know, 6 or 7 extractors over here. I might have, I think, 3 or 4 more over here in this smaller node. And then all of those argon extractors feed into one single gas storage here. Then this one links into this one links into this one links into this one, and so on. That whole stack at the last end feeds into this stack. Those all link together in the same way, and then that stack even links into this one. The key here on these bases for this idea is not to necessarily upscale your production, but massively upscale your storage, because we're going to make use of the weight mechanic later on. I'll teach you how to do that. And so we've got the argon storage talked about here. Let's talk about the greenhouses. So because we fully scanned the 2 plants on this planet that we need for our metabolic agent and our toxin, we're able to put those in here. So I built out 6 greenhouses. There's 3 per each, 3 for metabolic agent, 3 for toxin. You could theoretically just use 1 if you want, but I built 3. And so what happens here is these things, it just so happens that metabolic agent and toxin both only need water. So I've got some water extractors back here. The nice thing about this planet and building up in this ice area is you can just slap these water extractors down anywhere you want. So I've got all of these water extractors. I think there's 4 or 5 of them here. Same thing with the other storages over there. I've got them all piping into one liquid storage here. That one feeds into this one. That one feeds into this one, and so on. And then the last one distributes the water to the greenhouses. All right, so once you have the greenhouses all hooked up with water and everything else, let's talk about how to actually configure them properly. So let's talk with one of these ones over here. Once you have it all hooked up with water, you've already set up the input with water, you've set up the output to your solid storage bins, you're ready to actually configure it to start producing the right item for you. And you have to have both of the plants scanned to 100%. So come up here to the control console, you're gonna press E, and you'll see that I now have metabolic agent and toxin. And what's nice about these is, as I mentioned before, both of them only need water. Now, some plants and animal resources that you'll find on various plants will require this or that other products. You might have multiple production chains going on, but we're really lucky with what we want to do, and that both of these only require water. So you just select the correct one that you want. For example, this one's building out toxin. If I wanted it to build metabolic agent, I would click that and click E. And then if you change anything that it's already building, you might have to go redo the links for that particular greenhouse, but just be aware of that. Double check your links before you're ready to go, and you'll be good to go and producing metabolic agent and toxin without even being here. So yeah, guys, the bigger thing here is get a little bit of your production going with the argon and all your greenhouses. You really just need 1, 2, or 3 maybe per resource here. Make sure you've got a steady supply of water feeding in. I've got the extra storage here for buffer overflow for whatever reason. But once you have all that hooked up, you really don't need a lot of production. The bigger thing here is expanding your storage, because what we're going to do is we're going to use the weight mechanic in game and just bypass a bunch of time and let all these things fill up. But the problem here is the weight mechanic is limited based on where you are and how much time actually passes. All right, guys, so let's talk about how you're going to pass the time to fill up all your storage bins. Now, like I said in the beginning, if you're early game, you don't have a lot of other outposts going to feed all your raw resources to build all this stuff. You might only have a couple of storage bins per thing, and that's okay. But the goal here, again, is to scale up your storage all the time. I even plan on doubling all of this eventually myself. But you might think, like, how it's going to take forever to fill all this stuff up. That's where the weight mechanic comes in. So here, just next to the outpost beacon here, I've got a simple little bench set up. You're going to notice when we get into the seat animation here, and we click B to wait, at least on PC, the button is B, you're going to notice it says 1 local hour and 2 hours UT. That's because of the sort of rotational speed of this planet, Jemison. How slowly does it rotate? It rotates maybe about half the speed of Earth, so 2 hours here is 1 hour on Earth, essentially. But we want to basically wait as long as possible. Now, I could yank this all the way up and wait for 50 hours total time here. You can think about this as total time, not local hours. You really want to pay attention to the UT when you're doing this kind of stuff. And yeah, you know, I'll get some resources filling in. And when you're early and you don't have a lot of storage scaled up yet, that's probably fine. Do a couple of these cycles and, you know, you'll wait. And the bad thing is this does take a bit of time in real life to tick down. So the big strategy here is finding a way to get these cycles done as quickly as possible, essentially to churn out as much UT passing as you possibly can. Now, like I said, you could just do this bench here, just build a bench here and wait a bunch of times, but that does take quite a while. Especially when you start scaling up your storage a lot, you're going to want somewhere that you can do a lot, like very little IRL time spent on passing a bunch of UT. Now, if you guys know anything about, you know, orbital dynamics, or you've played Kerbal Space Program, or you're just interested in space stuff in general, you're going to know something special about a nice little planet called Venus in the Sol system. Now, in real life, Venus has a rotational period of something like hundreds of days. So the days and nights on Venus are very, very, very long. What I've done is I've got an outpost on Venus. This is going to be something that you might only be able to do late game here. I'll tell you a tip on how to do that. If you're not quite late game yet and you don't have a lot of skills built up, there is sort of a different way to get this done.
Other things can.
All right, so we're here on Venus. I've actually got an outpost here because I have a specific skill called Planetary Habitation ranked up to rank 3. You have to get all the way up to rank 3 here to be able to build an outpost on Venus. Now, the idea here is with the way the weight mechanic works, because Venus's rotational period in real life is so slow, they've actually modeled that in game here. So you'll notice, unlike when we were on Jemison, which was about a 1-to-2 ratio, one quote-unquote, you know, local hour or sleep tick, if you will, gets you 100 hours UT. That means with a full 24 tick sleep cycle, you get 2,400 hours UT. Now, if you guys don't have an outpost for just a nice quick little fast travel here like I can just fast travel straight to my outpost here. All you gotta do is just come land on Venus anywhere and sleep in a bed on your ship. That effectively solves the exact same problem. And by doing this, if I were to go do a single sleep cycle of 2,400 UT on Venus, every single storage bin back at the drug lab is going to be completely filled up. Now, depending on how much you've scaled up your storage, of course, you may have to do 1 or 2 cycles on Venus. You'll kind of dial it in and figure out exactly what you need to fill up your storage. Usually just 1 cycle does it, and you'll be ready to go and get started. All right, guys, now that we've waited 2,400 UT over on Venus with just 24 sleep ticks, and that's it, so very little IRL time input. I've fast traveled back to the outpost here, the drug lab as it's called, and so as you can see, all my storages are nice and green, and that's just with 1 full sleep cycle over on Venus because of that massive buff with UT. That's because, guys, resources are gathered in UT, not local time. So let's go ahead and head into the Pharmaceutical Lab, and I'm going to show you the little tip on how to actually mass produce this amp very, very quickly. And there's sort of a trick with where you click and how to click to make this happen really, really quickly so you can burn through a whole bunch and make a whole bunch of XP all at once. So we're going to come into the Pharmaceutical Lab here, and as you can see, I mean, obviously, it's the amount of argon, metabolic agent, and toxin that we have is just completely off the charts. So as you can see as well, we only need Performance Enhancement 1 research to make this, so very low-key kind of research here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click. And so what happens when we click is we get the prompt, and we want to make 99 at a time. So I can click there. Now notice that right where I click here, on amp, I can click sort of a couple pixels down and fill up this, and then I press E to confirm. So I do 1 click here, another click, E, 1 click, 2 clicks, E, and notice how I didn't move my mouse at all. So it's a click, click, E, click, click, E, and then you can speed this up, and now watch how quickly you can do this. You guys might even be able to do it quicker than me. See, at one point, you can just start mashing both E and the click, and you notice I've already got a level there. I'm producing 99 amp every time. I'm getting 99 XP every time. And of course, in the lower levels, you get a whole lot more out of this. I'm level 53 by now. I'll still get a couple of levels out of this, even with all the storage bins out of there. So you guys will be able to just churn through this stuff like crazy. Now, of course, when you're done with this, you're going to be totally encumbered. And part of the reason we built that ship landing pad so close is we're in range of that ship now, so you'll be able to dump all of those resources in. So yeah, there's all my amp there. Now let's check and see how many skill points we got out of that. I'll probably get 2 or 3. Oh, look at that, we got 2. I'm in the 50s now, so it's gonna slow down a little bit for me. But yeah, as you guys can see, I mean, I'm pretty encumbered now. I'm at like 10 times my capacity. So of course, we're just gonna go into the ship inventory. We're just gonna dump all of that amp into my ship. So now I can move. And so that's a nice way, guys, just to make a stacks and stacks and stacks of amp, so that gives you a whole bunch of XP. Now you'll see I've got 65,000 amp on my ship right now. That's going to take me quite a long time to offload, but I made more to show you guys here in the video. So let's talk about this, guys. So merchants in Starfield only have a certain amount of credits on them, and they refresh their credits every 48 hours UT. So if you guys remember that outpost we had back on Venus, I didn't tell you this back then, but I will show you a nice little tip on something about Venus that will let you sell stuff really, really quickly. I do think it is the best in the game. So the first one we're going to try, guys, to offload some stuff is right here in New Atlantis. So you're going to have a couple of different points you can come into in New Atlantis. Just go here, the main landing pad, and I'll show you guys where to go. One of the places we could go theoretically is the Trade Authority kiosk right here at the landing pad. There is also a Jameson Mercantile not too far away. So let's say you've just landed, you've got your stacks and stacks of amp in your ship. You can come over here to the terminal, and they'll buy pretty much anything from you. Come sell from your ship, go into aid, and just obviously they've only got 5,000 credits. You're gonna have to dial this bar down really far to get it as close to 5,000 as you can and confirm that there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to run all the way over here. You don't have to go too far over here to Jameson Mercantile. And then what you're going to do is you're going to talk to the vendor here. She should also have 5,000 credits. And then a nice little trick is coming over, and there's like a little chair out here we're going to do a wait command on for 24 hours here, which is 48 hours UT. Then you're going to fast travel back to the pad, sell at the kiosk, come sell to her, wait in the chair, fast travel to the pad, sell at the kiosk, sell to her, wait in the chair. So as you can see, what's nice about Jameson Mercantile here, the reason I think this is probably your best sort of early game option is this is just barely close enough to sell from the ship to her. So check this out. You can come sell, and this is obviously for me, but I can do one more to get to sell from ship. And she's just like there, 5,000. And so we'll try to get this down as close as I can to 5,000 where we're not losing any money. And boom, so that's all of her money. And you can buy stuff from her so she has more credits. But then you can just come right out the back here, sleep in this chair. Now, here on Jemison, just like before, the wait command is only going to give you a 1-to-2 ratio. But luckily, because the vendors refresh in 48 hours UT, you just yank this thing all the way up and hit E and you're good to go. And then you don't even have to get out of the chair, fast travel right back to that same landing pad. Now, I didn't actually wait just now for the purposes of the video, but if I did, this Trade Authority kiosk would have all of its credits back, and you can keep running this cycle. And you can sell from ship, sell the next batch, and just keep going. Run back over there to Jemison Mercantile, chair, kiosk, Jemison, chair, kiosk, Jemison. Just do that loop over and over. But you might think, yeah, that sounds good, but I bet you can do it faster. Well, let's go back to the outpost on Venus, and I'll show you guys a little tip that once you get that, where did it go here? Once you get that planetary habitation up to level 3, because it needs its toxic and corrosive atmospheres qualifier, you'll be able to build an outpost on Venus and not only fast travel there really quickly, but there's a special type of vendor we can find there that has a stool right in front of them, and we can do a really quick sell cycle. Let me show you guys that. All right, guys, so we are back here on Venus at my hyper advanced little outpost here. You know, I've got a lot of infrastructure here. So what we're gonna do here on Venus for a nice little trick, once we get our planetary habitation all the way up to level 3 for that corrosive atmospheres thing. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go land anywhere on Venus. It doesn't matter what biome, and you're gonna be looking for, you know, these little icons where you can scan in the distance, click E to scan and uncover them. What you're looking for is the one with this little icon here. It looks like a little, you know, igloo with a flag on top, and it might just say structure from a distance, but when you run up to it, it's going to say civilian outpost, and that's what you're looking for. Now, these are relatively rare, so if you don't see one in your immediate vicinity of the landing spot that you picked, just go pick a different spot. It can even be the same biome. Just keep landing. Find one. Now, usually they're anywhere from like 700 to 1,500 meters out from your landing spot, so you might have to trek a little bit to get there. But keep going to find one until you find one that says civilian outpost when you get there. Now, there might be other ones that will have this icon that are not necessarily the civilian outpost, but you are looking for one specifically called that. And what we're looking for here is a specific type of civilian outpost. So not only is the civilian outpost POI itself kind of rare. This specific one that we're looking for is one of these with like a full building, not just a one little person have. And this full building is going to have a bartender. And you'll see that bartender here in this one. And the really nice thing is, you'll notice, guys, I did not have a ship over there. Your landing ship happens to be within cell distance of this guy, generally speaking. If you build that outpost, now one thing I want to tell you guys is that outpost that we built out there, I built it as pixel close as we could to this outpost as possible. That is just barely close enough that when we do, fast travel to that outpost, that we are within cell range from the ship to this vendor. So we'll sit here on this chair, and just like the bench outside at the outpost, when we look at the weight menu, we're going to have that 1 to 100 ratio for UT. And now here's where the fun begins. So I don't even have to get out of this chair to talk to this guy. Now, we've just got here, so he's got all of his credits. So we'll go talk to him, see what he has for sale. And you'll notice I can sell from my ship from here, even though I don't have a landing pad at that outpost. And that, again, that's because I built that outpost right at the very, very edge of where it would let me as close to this POI as possible, like pixel perfect as close as possible. And then we can go in here and sell to him, of course. We'll sell as much as we possibly can. And so just like any other vendor, this guy is going to refresh every 48 UT.
If you're looking for contracts,
now, I can go here and just wait 1 hour.
Have a mission board that usually works.
Talk to him, and now there's little ways you can improve this process and like really just keep clicking through. I'm going slow for the purposes of this video, but what you guys will be able to tell when you start doing this is that you can kind of skip animations and hit certain keys before he looks like he's ready. So he's talking, I'm already waiting. Little things like that can save you a lot of time for your cell cycles here. And 1 hour is all you need to refresh this vendor, because it's well over the 48 hours UT that you need to refresh this vendor. And so again, I'm going pretty slow for this video. If you just chuck on a movie, guys, or something like that, you can get a lot of these cell cycles done really quickly. I even did the math at my fastest possible speed here. I can clear about 700K an hour, 800K an hour just from selling this amp. Now, one big tip I'll give you guys too to make this even more worth your while is over here in social, you're going to want to level up commerce all the way, of course. I mean, because you're going to get 25% on your sell bonus. As an added benefit of this skill, leveling it all the way up gets you the ability to make like stealing ships and stuff like that actually pretty profitable. Because if you guys haven't tried yet, you can steal a ship. You have to register the ship and then sell it. And then that gap in profit there on top of your input cost is not very high. Getting this skill up to this maximum 25% bonus helps you there too, because that'll make the profit margins on stealing ships a lot cleaner and easier for you. All right, guys, that was the video. Let me know if you guys find any ways to improve this process, and if you find any vendors that I might be able to do, a quick wait like this, and that might have a higher credit cap so we can get this stuff offloaded. As you guys can see, clearly the rate limiting factor here is the vendor process. So if you guys know any ways we can get this amp sold off any faster, let me know in the comments below. If you guys like the video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And let me know in the comments if you guys want to see any other tip videos, like general Starfield tips or tips for this or that thing in Starfield. Let me know, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.